Welcome everyone, I'm Tammie Pike, your host from Earth Radiance, and today on Inspired Biz Conversations I have Raquel Dubois, who is the most amazing and beautiful divine woman. So thank you so much, Raquel, for being here today.
Thanks, Tammie. I'm really excited to be here.
So Raquel is a nervous system specialist who uses mind-body medicine to help her clients experience wholeness from within. She uses her knowledge of science, psychology, energy, and the physical body to facilitate transformations for women who are seeking the missing piece. For women who identify as seekers on a path, Raquel teaches a unique way of being that brings alignment, acceptance, and peace, and empowers them to get more visible and share their gifts with the world. The journey Raquel takes them on is one that has to be felt and can't be understood with the mind. And I have to say, I've had the immense pleasure of having a session with you, and everything that you have said is so true. What you do cannot be explained. It has to be felt on a real level, because the feelings that you invoke or allow a person to experience within a session is just mind-blowing. Like when I talk about it to women, they're like, how does that happen? And I can't explain it because I don't do what you do, but it's like I say to them, you have to feel it to experience. But Raquel, I'd love for you to sort of tell me about how you came to be doing what you're doing.
Right. So the practice that I kind of use in the main part is a modality that was developed for people who have really severe traumatic stress states. And I've adapted that modality that basically works on the fundamental levels of our stress physiology to change the stress physiology. And I've adapted that to work with women who are in business, women who, are seeking more information, more enlightenment, who have some kind of awakening processes happening for them. And so this process really seems to work for women who are actually got a lot of tools and a lot of abilities already there. So they're already on the path. They've already tried lots of things. They've already developed lots of skills with which to help them, help their families, grow their business, be the light that they are in the world. This is just this other piece that nobody's really talking about and nobody's really sharing with people outside of, these psychological domains, which is where this comes from. So I came to it because I had my own stress problems. I was really, and more than that, it was from what I've now identified as intergenerational trauma, in utero trauma, and pre-verbal trauma. So most of my stress came from experiences that I couldn't put words to. I had a whole heap of stress in my body that was turning into things like overwhelm, burnout, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, chronic pain, depression, anxiety, panic attacks, health anxiety. I had all sorts of problems. And none of them could really actually be really explained, because most of them came through with what's called somatic symptoms. I had a lot of shaking, like I couldn't, every time I had an emotional experience or anything like that, my whole body just didn't feel like it could hold the experience. So what was happening is I was dealing with a very young nervous system, an underdeveloped nervous system that hadn't been developed and helped to be developed by my mother, because she didn't have the ability, because she was traumatized at a really young age as well. So that's where the intergenerational pattern comes through. And I see that a lot with the people I work with, especially with women who are in business for themselves. They are really powerful and amazing women, but they've often inherited a legacy of nervous system problems from their mother, and it can often be tracked by many generations even before that. My own pattern probably went back to the Boer War even. I mean, so we can see it in both sides of my family to the Second World War, but actually there's war trauma even beyond that in my family that seems to have created a pattern of spousal violence. When the men came back from the war, there was some sort of violence between the spouses, alcoholism, and then the women just were really affected by that. And when they were gestating and carrying their children, they weren't happy and weren't settled. They didn't feel safe. That's really where all this comes from. But it was really to heal my own inexplicable anxieties. And, you know, like I'd fix one anxiety and another anxiety would pop up. So this is this whole thing of what is the nervous system. It's not about healing, let's say, your health anxiety or your social phobias or whatever, because if you heal one and you've still got anxiety imprinted in your nervous system, another kind of problem will just arise, because it's a nervous system problem, not the symptom is anxiety, not the actual cause.
Amazing, because honestly, like you said, it reflects so well in you know, I suppose I was your like the ideal client in that structure and that framework of what you do, because I had done so much previous work, but yet I could not change the habitual way that my inner workings was happening, which was the nervous system. And I wasn't until, like, we have worked on and off with my daughter about my daughter and things like that, which helped immensely. But when it came to me and with my business, it was like the habit of, you know, different things. So the pressure and putting the pressure on myself and leaving things to the last minute and all that kind of stuff. And when we worked on it, actually was mainly around my family that this habit had came from, like anxiety as a child, and then also through the DNA, the collective, all that kind of stuff. And the way that you took me through to was like, you obviously have a certain way, and I just want to sort of share a little bit of my experience. Was when we actually hit what we my main so-called issue or trigger, I guess.
Yeah.
The feelings, like, it was so tangible, and I could actually, like, I think what changed me completely after your session was that we took time to actually go within and sit with those emotions.
Yes.
And actually explore them. How does that make you feel? What does that bring up? All that kind of stuff. And you gave me space to explain it, to feel it, to embody it, all that kind of thing, and then to release it. But I think, like, with so many different things, there's not really a way where we actually get asked to do that. You know, it's always about, let's move on from that feeling and, you know, let's be positive and stuff like that. So what you enable is such a deep transformation, because you're allowing us to go within and really feeling that. And I know that now that I have that, and even though it's so simple, but not really, you know what I mean? It's simple to know, it's hard to actually do. But now that you've given me the space to explore that, I find myself doing more and more in different situations.
That's what I find, is that people come to me for one thing, and it just becomes you know, that you can apply it globally for everything. Once you actually learn how to understand, hear, respond to, be present with your nervous system, which is different to being present with your thoughts and being present with your emotions, being present with various other things. When you can actually be present with what is really happening in your body in a way that is actually safe and in a way that's contained. So that's the real nuance of the work that I do, is that I hold the container. I've had to do so much work on my own nervous system to be able to hold the container for my clients, to be able to expand their nervous system to then hold what is actually present for them. And that's what a lot of practitioners haven't yet learned to do. And actually what I hope to be able to teach practitioners one day, that's kind of my goal, is that anyone who is actually holding space for their clients or teaching their clients things can actually learn how to lend their nervous system to be the container for whatever arises, as well as hold the client in a contained way so that they don't blow out. I call it like blowing a fuse, because that's if you can't be present or you dissociate to an experience, you've blown a circuit, and you can't then move through it or transform it. You have to stay present to it fully to be able to move through it. So if you, for example, in these really kind of, like, you hear about, let's say, breath work or really cathartic emotional experience work, those sorts of things, people, like all those big kind of breakthrough experiences, that's a good example. People have these amazing experiences, but what is often happening is that their nervous system can't hold it, and so they're actually blowing out, and they're not staying present in their body. They might be even dissociating, they might be hysterical. They might have flatlined and actually kind of like left the building. There's a whole heap of different ways you can tell when somebody isn't present in their body. And, you know, I mean, you can tell that just through the eyes is one of the clearest ways, yeah. But there's when they're not present and they're trying to feel their emotions, that's why they keep on having this whole cycle of re-traumatization, because only this much is felt, the rest the person has actually left their body. Mm-hmm. And that's the difference with this work, is that I am the container until the client is ready. And even while and I help the client feel the limits of their own nervous system, and we expand it in sessions.
Yes.
And that's where people get more empowered. When you can actually feel your own nervous system container and have it not blow out, that's when the aha moment goes off for people, where they're like, this is amazing. I actually feel wonderful, because they've felt everything that wants to be felt and they've stayed in their bodies while they've done it.
And that's the thing, it's such an amazing experience, because like I've done a lot of different energy work, but that was someone doing it to me, if you know what I mean. And
right. Yeah.
And it's so empowering, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm really for the client's autonomy and the client's empowerment. And I know we talk about that a lot in many different ways. People talk about that, and I think it's great and it's important. But I do think that with a lot of energy healing practices, that isn't being so highly considered. And I actually have some clients who have come to me and said, oh, I'm not really sure about this because I'm used to having things done to me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that seems to be some of the ways that people approach energy healing. Mm-hmm. And that has effect, but it has a limited effect. Mm-hmm. People are doing it to yourself, doing it to others. It has a limited effect. And I think where it particularly affects us is feeling that kind of capacity and that capability and our strength. And unless we are helped to do it for ourselves, we don't get those experiences.
Yeah, definitely. And I also too feel like when we're doing the energy healing, because I do it for people as well, but even in the like coaching and all that kind of stuff, when you start getting people to answer their own questions, when you get people to honor themselves and their feelings and go within and create that power, they might not feel it as a magical experience or something, completely out of body.
Yeah.
But the lasting effects, the empowerment, the self-knowing is just it's like not comparable to anything else, is it really?
No, it's not. And the one thing that I add to that, which is kind of my favorite, is self-trust.
Yes.
So I find that when you get more connected to your body, self-trust arises, and that is, I've just got goosebumps even talking about it, right? It's there's something that happens in the moment of self-trust.
Yeah.
That's when you don't have to consult a psychic every week to find out if you're on the right track for your business or anything else, right? Or ask about how to deal with a question or whatever. You don't have to do that. There's something in you that innately says, I trust myself because I've connected to my body and I trust my body in this different way. I think it comes actually from neuroscience. Mm-hmm. So from a neuroscientific perspective, our brain is an organ of the body. Mm-hmm. Okay? So it's not the mind, I'm talking about the brain. And the brain is actually an organ of the body. Yeah. So when we connect to our body, as in every other part of the body apart from the brain, and we kind of feel the sensations and everything that's in that, that is in total alignment with the brain. It's one system. The brain and the rest of the physical body is all one thing, the body. And we're not going outside of ourselves to figure anything out. We're not even going outside of ourselves to bring in our own energy field, because our energy field is actually outside of this one body system. Mm-hmm. It's part of us, of course, but it's not our body system. And when we're actually, in everything that we do, we're using our brain. So if we're meditating, we're using our brain. If we're visualizing, we're using our brain. If we're moving, we're using our brain. And if we're noticing what's present, we're using our brain. Mm-hmm. So if we can stay within the same organ system and use our brain to notice our body, which is all the same thing, we're still in a state of oneness. It hasn't moved. And I think that's actually, that's where we get the trust and the knowing that we're not separate, and it's beyond a conception from that point of view.
Yeah, and I have to say, like, one of the biggest side effects from your sessions is trusting my intuition instantly.
Perfect.
Do you know, like, before that, I was always like, do I do it? Like, you know, is this what I'm really feeling? And like, when I get these feelings now, I'm like, I do it straight away. And then the results have just been phenomenal because I'm just trusting myself. And it's not even that I've even worked on it. Like, I did the session with you, but now because I'm listening and it just seems like I'm not even making a full conscious effort. It's just like, it just seems like it's just a new habit now.
It is. It's because we're working with the subconscious, and it's really it's the deep unconscious. This is much deeper than a lot of what, like if you're working with tapping or things like that, you're often at a pre-conscious level. So it is about stuff that's not right at the level of aware consciousness, awake consciousness, but it's actually generally only at pre-conscious level. You can sometimes try to work at the deep unconscious, but it generally doesn't work. All the psychological literature says it's very, very difficult to change core beliefs. But somehow, if you actually work at the level of the unconscious through the body, you can actually change them without actually bothering to get the conscious mind involved. So just like you're saying, it's like you haven't worked on it, you haven't thought about it. So working on it means thinking about it. Your body is working on it. Your body is figuring it out. Your body is reorganizing and realigning. And when it's kind of done its business, then it sends the messages up to you, and you just act upon them. And you're like, oh, I'm just like being really intuitive and trusting today. It's actually still coming from some work that's happened, but not with your conscious mind.
Exactly. It's amazing. And so I can sort of, like, you've told me your journey and what you do, but why do you want to help other women to do this?
I think there's a couple of things. You know, one, it's really, really important to me to get quality information out there, to kind of debunk some of the myths that we have about that we have to go outside of ourselves to fix ourselves. That yes, I'm here to facilitate and assist, but I am not doing the healing. The person who is in the room, they are the ones who are actually doing the transformation. I'm just kind of noticing, I'm just paying attention, and I'm just being present. And they are definitely skills in themselves, of course, but that is not, I'm not healing anybody. So it's really important to me that we reclaim that kind of information and knowledge. We stop letting the information realm be out there in something that's in books or in educational institutions or in the realms of, you know, some kind of conservative institutions that I think perhaps are a little outdated. We need to actually bring knowledge back into ourselves and back into our hearts and back into, you know, back into everything that we do and be really. So for me, everything is a way of being, not a way of doing. I really, you know, when people used to ask me, you know, what's your purpose in life? I would really say, look, it's actually about contributing. My question is not, you know, what do I do, but it's what do I contribute? And so part of my contribution is to kind of share this piece of knowledge, that something that is scientific or something that is grounded in some really amazing evidence can still actually be really heart-based, and we can actually get outside of some of these kind of pop psychology myths and things like that kind of get a little bit perpetuated because people don't really understand some of the concepts, and some of the concepts are being a little bit misused and therefore not being. So these are enlightenment and awakening tools, and when they get distorted or changed, we're actually losing their power. So we have to actually be really mindful and careful about how we're using these really powerful tools, because if we keep on changing them along the way, we're actually moving away from you know, the greatness of what we can be. So that's a really important thing for me. The other thing is, because of my own trauma history, I really see how there are so many people who have a dysregulated nervous system. So I prefer to call trauma a nervous system dysregulation, because there's so much kind of like, it's laden with too many things, the word trauma. Whereas if you perceive it, is that whatever a trauma is, any overwhelming event to the nervous system, anything that happens to the nervous system that the nervous system doesn't have the capacity to respond to and be with and be present to, that's an overwhelming event. So in my case, as a little child with a mother who just couldn't attune, when I was born, let's say, forget about all the other parts, is that was really, really dysregulating for me, because I didn't have a mother she was so worried about being an okay mother that she was just preoccupied with herself. So every time, this little baby is only a sensing being. It's nothing more than a sensing being. So all its senses are heightened. You know, we talk about psychics. I mean, little babies are the most psychic things on the planet, right? So that little baby, me, any other little baby with a mother who's just so preoccupied with herself and worried that she's going to do something wrong, all the baby's message, its senses is, oh, it's not about me, it's about her. That's the message that you grow up with. So, and then it's like, oh, it's about fixing her so that if she feels okay, bad things don't happen to me, and I can feel safe. So you can see how then people turn into helpers, people turn into healers, people turn into fixers, people turn into self-sacrificers. In that sort of situation, that's what grows a person who is constantly self-sacrificing, constantly helping others, constantly needing to help others and to fix others.
Yes.
So I really want those, it's this intergenerational legacy that comes through the attachment system between mother and child, but particularly mother and daughter. I really want to see that change.
Yes.
That's my passion.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. And so what services do you provide in helping that to happen?
So primarily at the moment, I do one-on-one sessions, and I do them via Skype or in person. So I've got a clinic in North Brisbane, and I see people there. But I do most of my sessions via Skype or Zoom or some other online platform. There's a few others I use too. So most of my sessions are done that way. I've also done telephone sessions. So even, you know, like I have a ability to be present enough to sense what's going on in a body without even seeing it.
Yes.
And to help people track their own body in that way. So we can do it even without seeing the body.
Yeah, well, I remember actually my first session with you, with me for myself, was over the phone, and that was, you know, transformational and allowing so many things to, you know, be released. But for me, yeah, the magic was definitely, I think both of, I got amazing results from both. It's just that depending on what people prefer, I guess.
Yeah, we did a 2-hour session, which is a really intense session.
Yes.
And so you decided to come in person for that. And yes. I think when you want to come for a really long set, so I do up to 90 minutes I do online, but the longer sessions are always say come in. Yeah. So when you ask that, so we had a lot of time because we did several pieces, so that we might have normally been spread over 3 sessions. And so what you have to do is you have to allow the integration and settling between each piece of work. The nervous system has to do that. So what we were able to do is sort of have about a 10-minute interval where I could really lend my nervous system to you so that it could settle and integrate before we moved on to the next thing.
Amazing, amazing. And so where can people find you to find out more?
So I have a Facebook business page. I'm Raquel Dubois Mind Body Mentoring. And very soon I'll have raqueldubois.com website up and running. It looks very close. I just want to get some nice photographs in there.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. So I'll post up all the links for everyone to find you. But this has been an absolute pleasure, and thank you so much for coming on and having an Inspired Biz conversation with me. You are a game changer and, you know, a different way in that I see that you are helping women empower themselves even through their healing process, which is such a gift to so many women, and I've got to experience too, and it's just been amazing. So thank you, Raquel. I really appreciate everything that you do and for being here today.
Yeah, me too. I really enjoyed it, Tammie. It's been lovely.
Yeah, wonderful.
I want to do it again.
Yes, me too, for sure. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. And I really recommend following Raquel and even having a session with her if you're feeling that you've done a lot of work already and just don't know the next step now. And to get that empowerment of healing yourself from within is just an amazing experience. So I look forward to next time, and thank you so much for joining us.